Paul, the fearless missionary, had endured much on his voyage, but the worst was yet to come. A shipwreck had led him to the shores of Malta, a place where dangers lurked at every turn, even in the most unexpected places. Yet, he remained undeterred. Little did he know, his survival against all odds was about to become the beginning of a remarkable story. As the wrecked ship's survivors staggered ashore, battered and bruised by the unforgiving sea, they found themselves on an unfamiliar shore, an island in the Mediterranean, known to the locals as Malta. The sea had tossed them about, but the land they now stood on promised a strange, yet hopeful, new beginning. The islanders, seeing the exhausted survivors, wasted no time. They rushed to greet them, offering them the warmth of their homes and the comfort of their hospitality. The cold winds that had whipped across the sea now gave way to the gentleness of the island's climate, and the survivors were welcomed with open arms. The relentless waves had drenched them, leaving their clothes soaked and their bodies shivering. With each gust of wind, the chill seemed to grow, and the survivors were in desperate need of warmth. But as the last remnants of the storm receded, the island's warmth remained elusive. However, the islanders were quick to act. Without hesitation, they began to gather dry wood and kindling, their movements swift and practiced. The promise of a fire was a glimmer of hope in the midst of their exhaustion. Paul, ever the diligent worker, didn't wait to be asked. He joined the islanders without hesitation, his determination evident in every step. His hands, though still sore from the wreck, moved quickly as he scoured the ground for dry branches and twigs. He knew that a fire meant more than just warmth, it meant survival, it meant comfort, and it meant a chance to regain strength after the ordeal they had just endured. One of the locals, with a small flint and steel, struck a spark and watched as it caught on the tender dry leaves. Slowly, the fire grew, flickering to life and spreading its light. But little did Paul know, his actions in gathering the sticks would soon set the stage for something that none of them could have predicted. As he walked along the shore, his eyes scanning the ground for more kindling, he unknowingly reached into the heart of something dangerous. Among the pile of dry branches, hidden beneath the leaves, something stirred. Unaware of the peril lurking just beneath his hands, Paul continued to gather sticks, oblivious to the fact that a deadly snake, a viper, was coiled within. This simple, seemingly insignificant act of gathering would soon lead to an event that would forever change the course of their journey. In one swift, lightning-fast motion, the viper struck. Its fangs sank deep into Paul's hand, locking in with deadly precision. The sharp pain shot through his body in an instant. The islanders, who had been watching the scene unfold, froze in shock. They knew what had just happened. This was no ordinary snake. It was a viper, venomous and lethal. A bite like that meant death, plain and simple. It was a fate that no one could escape. A collective gasp swept through the onlookers. Their eyes widened in disbelief, and murmurs of fear rippled across the group. "This man must be cursed," they whispered. "First, he survives a shipwreck, and now this, he's destined to die by the hand of the gods." They watched Paul closely, their expressions filled with anticipation, as though they had already seen his fate sealed. The locals, familiar with the deadly nature of these snakes, exchanged nervous glances. In their eyes, the venom would soon begin to take its toll. Paul's body would swell, he would become feverish, and then, within moments, he would be dead. But Paul, he didn't flinch. He didn't panic. Instead, he calmly shook the snake off his hand, sending it flying into the fire. The viper, writhing in the air, fell into the flames with a hiss, consumed by the heat, its deadly power vanquished. The islanders continued to stare, their jaws hanging open in stunned silence. For them, what they had just witnessed was impossible. It was as if Paul had defied the very laws of nature. As the moments passed and Paul remained standing, his hand still intact, his body untouched by the venomous bite, the islanders couldn't believe their eyes. Whispers began to circulate among the islanders, their voices low at first, but growing louder as the realization set in. "This man, he cannot be human," one murmured, a tone of awe creeping into their voice. "He's something more. He should have died, but he did not. He must be a god." The islanders, who had initially viewed him as just another man at the mercy of fate, now saw him through a different lens. They saw him not as a victim, but as a vessel of power, something supernatural. The belief that Paul was a god began to spread like wildfire, and soon, their judgment was clouded by admiration. In their eyes, he had defied the very laws of nature. This was no ordinary man. It wasn't long before Publius, the chief of the island, heard of the stranger who had defied death. As the leader of Malta, he understood the importance of showing respect to someone who had earned such awe. Deciding that it was only right to offer hospitality on a grander scale, he invited Paul and his companions to his home. Upon their arrival, Paul and his companions were greeted with an even greater measure of care than before. But the kindness extended to Paul didn't stop at mere comforts. Publius took a particular interest in Paul, recognizing the extraordinary nature of his presence. The chief was drawn not just to the man who had survived the snakebite but to the aura of something powerful that seemed to surround him. What the chief and the islanders didn't know, however, was that this was only the beginning. Paul's miraculous acts were far from over. As Paul and his companions settled into the generous hospitality of Publius' home, they quickly realized that the warmth extended to them was genuine. However, amidst the comfort of this new setting, Paul noticed something troubling. The household, though outwardly welcoming, carried a quiet sorrow, a heaviness that could not be ignored. It wasn't long before Paul learned the reason. Publius' father lay in a nearby room, gravely ill. His body was racked with fever, his strength nearly gone. The household whispered of his condition, fearing the worst. No remedy had worked, and as the days stretched on, hope dwindled. The man's breathing was labored, his skin pale with sickness, and those who cared for him knew that unless something changed, he would not last much longer. Moved with compassion, Paul did not hesitate. He asked to see the man, and without fear, he stepped into the dimly lit room where the ailing father lay. Kneeling beside him, Paul placed his hands upon him. The room fell silent. The islanders watched, unsure of what to expect. Paul closed his eyes, lifting a heartfelt prayer to God, his voice steady and full of faith. Then, in an instant, something remarkable happened. The fever left the man's body. Strength returned to his limbs. His eyes opened, now filled with life. He sat up, fully healed. A miracle had taken place before their very eyes. Word of the miraculous healing of Publius' father spread like wildfire across the island. Hope ignited in the hearts of the sick and suffering, and soon, people from every corner of Malta came seeking Paul. The lame, the blind, and those afflicted with fevers and diseases gathered, desperate for healing. With unwavering kindness and faith, Paul laid his hands on each one, and one by one, they were restored. In the midst of the miracles, Paul did not forget to share the reason for his strength. It is not I who heal, but God through me. The power you see was the power of Jesus Christ, whom I served. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the people of Malta honored Paul and his companions with generous gifts. After 3 months, Paul and his companions prepared to sail to Rome. The islanders, forever changed by the miracles they had witnessed, bid them farewell with love and respect. Though Paul's time on Malta was short, the legacy of his visit would last for generations. Many came to faith in Jesus, and the island became a place of peace and hope. The story of Paul on Malta was a story of survival, miracles, and the power of God working through ordinary people. It reminds us that no matter how dangerous life may be, with faith, all things are possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Bible stories.